Thank you for being here. Representative Doyle and I are introducing a bipartisan bill. We are proud to say it has 43 co-sponsors. Representative Doyle and I are introducing this along with 41 of our colleagues, a mixture of Democrats and Republicans who care about ensuring that Ohio's families, kids, and grandkids stay here in Ohio far into the future. The initiative we're introducing is to say to young talent in Ohio, if you commit to staying here for 5 years after college, we will give you up to $20,000 for a bachelor's degree and up to $30,000 for a master's degree in the form of an income tax credit. And our hope is, if we can keep young people here, your kids and grandkids, for 5 years after college, during those 5 years, they will hopefully fall in love, find a job, find a community, and the state will attract them through various means to stay here beyond 5 years. And those 5 years turn to 20 years, turn to 40 years, during which they'll be buying groceries and going to ball games and hopefully starting businesses and creating new jobs in our state. Jay and I thought it was important to ensure that this was not a Democratic or Republican bill, that this bill had bipartisan support, because the issue of keeping young people here, reversing that exodus of young talent, is not a partisan issue. It's one that we need to break down partisan lines to ensure that our young people stay. I will open it up to any questions anyone has.
Can you talk about how much the program would cost and how much you think it would bring in?
Sure. The estimates that the Legislative Service Commission have generated estimate approximately a 2,000% return on investment. So if we invested approximately $20,000 in the form of an income tax credit and keep a young person here now, over a 25-year span, that young person would probably end up paying upwards of $400,000 just in income tax revenue to this state. In addition to that, that person would likely be buying groceries and going to ball games and buying blue jeans and hopefully having a family and buying goods for their kids as well. And in addition to that, those people who would stay here would hopefully be starting businesses. So if we could apply dynamic economics as opposed to static economics, Representative Doyle and I would estimate that the return on investment is far beyond that.
Somebody commits to staying here, and then they don't follow through with that commitment.
Sure.
So do we use the money, or what's the safeguard?
That would be addressed through the rulemaking process. But if someone did make that commitment and then left after year 2 or 3, the state would then would then track down that person, and the person would owe those the tax credits, the revenue saved those tax credits back to the state.
But you're going to give the tax credits over a series of years.
Correct.
So they're going to get a small tax credit each year.
Correct. It would be up to $2,000 per year. So, for instance, someone has a lower paying job where they're not even paying that much in income taxes to begin with. Let's say they only pay $1,500 in income taxes in year 1. Well, they wouldn't give up that extra $500 in year 2 or 3. If they were paying more, they'd be able to use that credit. Because folks who are, someone who's perhaps a teacher or a social worker may not be making as much as someone who perhaps is a attorney or a doctor, and so we would account for that.
This goes back to the question I asked the last General Assembly, but how do you get around the irony that some people would see in saying to overcome the impediment of the tax base or the tax rate, collective aggregate tax rate in this state, if that is one of the major impediments, to get over that, we're going to give an incentive. And one of the selling points of the incentive is we'll get all this income tax back in the long run. Kind of conceptually, there's some irony there. Some people would say there's some irony around that.
I think the best thing we can do to grow our economy in Ohio is to lower tax rates across the board. my understanding of positions of folks who are on the other side of the aisle in certain leadership positions in our state right now, they would not be in favor of lowering tax rates across the board. But if I had my druthers, I would lower tax rates across the board for Ohio families. That not being realistic in the political environment in which we work, right now Representative Boyle and I are trying to be creative and be bold and do what we can do within the confines of the current political environment to give tax incentives to these young people to keep them here. But the premise of your question makes total sense.
Be sympathetic to that.
Sure. I have not had a conversation with Representative Boyle specifically about lowering tax rates across the board. I can tell you, working with Representative Boyle, I find him to be a pro-business Democrat, that Representative Boyle understands many issues in respect to what our Ohio businesses face. He himself works in the family business, and I think as a product of that, understands many